Good morning, everyone. Shall we stand as we're able and begin with our opening hymn? Number 1000, please. Morning has come.
Good morning. Welcome to worship at First Unitarian Church of Portland. We are a multi-generational community with a mission to nurture the individual spirit and together live into beloved community. We're so glad that you are here in person and joining us online. If you're new here this morning, a special welcome to you. I invite you to join us for a brief welcome circle following the service over here in the gallery to your right. And this is a chance to meet some community leaders, staff, and other new folks. Today after the service, our social hour will be in the Buchanan building, and we'll have our usual coffee and tea service as well as lunchy snacks to nourish us for two events that are both happening after the service. In an effort to come together as a community to reflect on recent changes at the church, you are invited to join one of 3 scheduled listening sessions. These gatherings are facilitated by members of our lay ministry team and board of trustees. The first one will be held today in Elliott Chapel, and there's room for 40 people, so if today is the only time you can attend one of the sessions, please be sure to be in Elliott Chapel by 11:45, and please have eaten your snacks by then. The next listening circles will be August 28th on Zoom and in person on September 8th after the service. Also, starting today at noon in Buchanan Reception Hall, we hope you will join us to boost our UU the Vote efforts into high gear. This is a hybrid event, so those of you online can register through the e-news to get a Zoom link. Our Care and Action for Reproductive Dignity group guided us to focus our electoral efforts this year on Arizona. It's a swing state, and the Right to Abortion initiative is on the ballot. While we, as a nonprofit religious organization, cannot work on behalf of candidates, we can and should put our UU values into action on political issues dear to us. So at today's event, we'll hear directly from the strategist for the UU Justice Network of Arizona to learn about what's at stake there. And we'll learn from the UU Democracy strategist about all the ways that we can get involved for the November election through UU the Vote. And as you know, we've already been at it writing letters here to Arizona voters. And since it looks like we will surpass our goal of 10,000 letters by mid-October, we've, that's awesome. There's more. We've upped the goal to 12,000. So come write letters with us today or collect letters to write from home at the UU The Vote table in the social hour. And also a special note that we're building a team of people interested and able to travel to Phoenix in late October to door knock for the Right to Abortion initiative there. I'll be headed down there, and I believe Jen Thomas, our membership engagement coordinator, will also go. And there are a few other folks who've already said they're interested. If you're unable to attend the UU The Vote meeting today, where we'll learn more about the canvas, but you are interested in going, please write to me at uuthevote@firstunitarianportland.org. And we're asking for a minimum of 5 days on the ground in Arizona, in Phoenix. So you can find more information about these announcements and everything else church-related on our e-news and at the website. So let's take a few moments to greet each other, and those online, you can greet each other through the chat.
I just love that sound, the sound of hospitality. And for anyone that is here for the first time that feels warmly greeted, you are welcome here. And for anyone that was hoping not to talk to anyone on your first visit, you are welcome here too. We begin our worship by lighting the symbol of our faith, and I want to invite Aria and Max and Peters to come forward and to help us do that. If you're at home, you could light a candle or a chalice yourself. Let us join together. We are Unitarian Universalists. We light this chalice in faith, in hope, and in love. It's a special day today. We light our two chalices. One is the chalice for our sanctuary, and one is the chalice for our Lifespan Faith program. And it's the last Sunday of our summer program, and we're looking forward to the year ahead, the beginning of the year ahead. Our call to worship is by James Villa Blake. We've been talking about covenants, and this is one of the oldest that Unitarian Universalists across the land will often share about how we are together. and how we treat one another. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to help one another, to seek the truth, and to create peace together. We meet by the light of that covenant this morning.
Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us, above us only sky. Imagine all the people living for today. Imagine there's no countries. It isn't hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for, and no religion too. Imagine all the people living a life in peace. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday that you'll join us, and the world will be as one. Imagine no possessions. I wonder if we even can. No need for greed or hunger. A family of humans. Imagine all the people sharing all this world. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday that you'll join us, and the world will live as one, and the world will live as one. You may say that I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday that you'll join us, and the world will live as one, and the world will live as one. And this world will live as one.
Good morning. I extend a special welcome to those interested in your children and youth being in our learning community this year. RE registration is happening now. There's information and directions on our website and in the Front Steps email. And thank you so much to those of you who have already registered. You can't possibly know how helpful that is. It's going to be a fun year, and there is room for all of us.
It is still summer, but fall is fast upon us. Seasonal cycles are thresholds. They can be exciting, challenging, and sometimes tender times of change. So we pause to name this, and we offer a ritual of blessing to connect us to the larger rhythms of collective life.
If you are starting a new year of school as a student or teacher, I invite you to raise your hand and leave it up. If you have started a new job this season or are about to, raise your hand and leave it up. If you are starting a new partnership or ending one, or moving or in the process of discovering a new hobby, or doing new to you political work, or learning a language, raise your hand.
Are you planning a trip, grieving or preparing to grieve, winding down a life phase, coming out about who you are in a new way, taking on a new role at church or in some other meaningful area, or facing some other kind of change or adventure this season? Raise your hand. Look around. The winds of change are ever blowing as we each face our new next thing. You may all put your hands down.
So to bless us as we move further into our threshold cycle, we have a tiny collection of colorful, fragrant, dried flower petals to offer you. So anyone who wishes to come forward may choose a blessing packet, and then we're going to give you some suggestions about how you might use it. If you're joining us online, I invite you to pluck a flower from your garden or maybe a dandelion from a local park, and you too can do this at home. So I'm going to invite people to come forward in just a moment. If that's difficult for you, you can wave and an envelope will come to you. And I will also try to leave a few in the lobby. So I invite you to come forward now. Your only task is to select an envelope in the color that speaks for you and then return to your seat. Excuse me for breaking into this music. I am just so sorry to say that we are out of packets of blessings. So I would like to say two things. And one is that my son kindly stuffed them for me. And at 50, I said, oh, just stop. We're not even going to get 50 people who want one. So Armani, you were right. They were going to be popular. And the second thing I want to say is that I have more envelopes and I'm going to order more flowers. And I hope one of the things that you heard in how Max and Aria announced this ritual is that we are always in a moment of change. We're always in a time of transition. And so I hope that when you see a little note in the front steps saying that more blessing packets are available, that you will grab one for yourself, for your friend, even if maybe you've figured out a way to conduct this ritual today or this week without one of our little colored packets, so that this can be something that goes with you. And I guess I said I'd say two things. My third thing is that I'm touched to see all of you come forward, and I hope that you can participate in this ritual even without your little envelope, because this is actually the fun part. And it is that you get to create your ritual. So you can share some flowers. Maybe the person who is sitting next to you didn't get to grab an envelope, and you can pour a couple little dried flower petals into their hand. Maybe it's someone at home who you think could benefit from them. And then put your dried petals, your envelope, somewhere important. So maybe it's going to go under your pillow, or on your altar, or dining room table, in your home chalice. Or you can tuck it in your pocket, or your purse, or your backpack, so that it can literally journey with you. And then say this simple prayer for the next, whether that is for the next new, scary, delightful thing, or maybe it's just the next moment of being alive. You can murmur it to yourself, or write it on your envelope, or say it in unison as a family. And my hot tip is that this is a really powerful thing to do the night before you start school and the morning of the first day. So I'm going to say the prayer. It's going to appear on the screen, and then we can all practice it together. I move forward with courage and blessing. I move forward with courage and blessing. Let's together say it once more. I move forward with courage and blessing. And that is it. As we greet the next school year, the coming fall, and all of the other next or new things in our seasonal cycles, however hard or lovely or routine they may be, may we move forward with courage and blessing, knowing that our threshold journeys are held in this space.
It's time for all the children, youth, and RE leaders to make our way next door for our last day of summer RE. We will bring our learning community chalice so we can share the flame of our community. If you are new, please join us. You can meet us in the lobby and we will show you where to go. Let us now sing our doxology, Spirit of Life, together.
This summer, we share our offering with Unitarian Universalist organizations, and these last 2 weeks in August, we share our plate with UU the Vote. And it is a bold initiative created by the Unitarian Universalist Association's Side with Love team. They provide resources to bring our democratic values to life in the crucial struggle to build a genuine multiracial democracy. It empowers UUs to get involved in voter registration, issue education, get out the vote drives, voter protection, and more. As you know, First Unitarian is actively involved in UU the Vote campaigns, and we are grateful for their leadership and support. For those of you here in the sanctuary, our ushers will come through with a basket if you are giving by way of cash or check. And there's also a QR code on the cards in the seat back in front of you if you'd like to give electronically. And those of you online can click the donate button on Boxcast or use the QR code that will soon appear on the screen. Thank you for your generosity that helps sustain the ministry of this church. During our service each week, we take time to hold the prayer intentions of our community. If you are here in person, you can light a candle of intention in one of our side galleries, and online you can send them to prayer@firstunitarianportland.org. Our ministers and wonderful lay minister team are here to hold your prayers and provide care throughout the week. I have two parish concerns to share this morning. Member Gail Nance died last Tuesday, August 20th, at the age of 82. Gail suffered with Lewy body dementia in the last years of her life. She joined our church in 2005 and served as an usher for many years. We hold her family and loved ones at this time of loss. And we mark a special anniversary for our congregation this morning. 100 years ago yesterday, on August 24th, 1924, the congregation held its worship service in what is now the Elliott Chapel for the first time. This fall, we'll be marking this anniversary with a series of events. Those will include a celebration of the 100th anniversary of the annual Christmas pageant, which began in the congregation's new church in 1924. So will you join me in a spirit of prayer? And I'd like to invite you to take a few breaths to ground in this moment and to notice the rise and fall of your in-breath and your out-breath. As we settle in together, let us be aware of our own hearts, our own hopes and concerns, taking notice of how we arrive in this moment. We hold with tenderness all who arrive with sadness and loss today. We make space for those who may be navigating anger at a boundary crossed or apprehension about challenging conversations. There is room for those who are here with hope and excitement for new possibilities in our collective lives in this land, and those who are feeling disappointed that the ideals we hold sacred seem never to be reached. We welcome all who today sit with settled hearts as well, open to the vibrations of sacred sound, words, and love among us. No matter how you are here, no matter what you hold today, may you know that you are alive and that you belong here. Spirit of love, as we gather on this Sunday morning, may all of us find gratitude for community and compassion for the range of emotion and experience we inhabit. May we be curious and find inspiration as we engage in the collective efforts of healing and work for common good. Spirit of justice, help us remember the sacredness of each life and of this planet. Help us speak up in solidarity for the end of war, oppression, and hyper-militarized communities and nations. Help us to not turn away from the suffering of communities ravaged by bombs, by poisoned air, water, land. Let us listen to and respond to their calls for peace and self-determination. Help us remain steadfast in calling for a ceasefire in Gaza and to bring hostages and political prisoners home. A spirit of hope, as we move into the transitions of the fall with a new school year upon us and an election cycle that has taken us through many twists, turns, and trials, may we stay grounded in the present and in our values. May we enter new situations with grace. May we transform our concern for democracy toward action. And may each act be a prayer that draws us closer to beloved community. And Spirit of life, throughout this day and every day, may we notice the wonder of our embodied lives. Help us appreciate our lungs breathing and being breathed by our interconnection with the sky and the trees, rain and sunshine. May we feel the blessing of our wondrous earth home as she supports us, even as we sit here, and with every step we take. May we offer ourselves and each other grace for ever-shifting thoughts and emotions of our perfectly imperfect human selves. And may all beings know peace. May it be so, and amen. Let's take a few moments for silent reflection. Please rise in body or spirit as we sing, we laugh, we cry. Our reading today is The Tiger by William Blake. Tiger, tiger, burning bright in the forests of the night, what immortal hand or eye could frame thy fearful symmetry? In what distant deeps or skies burnt the fire of thine eyes? On what wings dare he aspire? What the hand dare seize the fire? And what shoulder and what art could twist the sinews of thy heart? And when thy heart began to beat, what dread hand and what dread feet? What the hammer, what the chain? In what furnace was thy brain? What the anvil? What dread grasp dare its deadly terrors clasp? When the stars threw down their spears and watered heaven with their tears, did he smile his work to see? Did she who made the lamb make thee? Tiger, tiger, burning bright in the forests of the night, what immortal hand or eye dare frame thy fearful symmetry?
I'm going to invite you to join us at the very end of this tune, if you wish. We'll sing it a while first. I'll raise my hand to let you know. What the world needs now is love, sweet love. It's the only thing that there's just too little of. What the world needs now is love, sweet love. No, not just for some, but for everyone. Lord, we don't need another mountain. There are mountains and hillsides enough to climb. There are oceans and rivers enough to cross, enough to last till the end of time. What the world needs now is love, sweet love. It's the only thing that there's just too little of. What the world needs now is love, sweet love. No, not just for some, but for everyone. Lord, we don't need another meadow. There are cornfields and wheat fields enough to grow. There are sunbeams and moonbeams enough to shine. Oh, listen, Lord, if you want to know. Another meadow. There are cornfields and wheat fields enough to grow. There are sunbeams and moonbeams enough to shine. Oh, listen, Lord, if you want to know what the world needs now is love, sweet love. It's the only thing that there's just too little of. What the world needs now is love, sweet love. No, not just for some, but for everyone.
Okay, today, for those of you who are new, is the question box sermon where a group of volunteers sort through the questions that you have sent in, and I have 8 multi-part questions that they have given to me in order, and they've also sent the other questions. So what I'll say is I will use the ones I'm not able to address today as fodder for future sermons, including the one I just got, slipped onto the chancel, for future sermons and future columns and future other opportunities where we're together. And I will begin. I like to call this the hot seat sermon, or now that I take tap dance on my days off, I like to call it the tap dance sermon, because you have to, here I am before you, dancing a response somewhat on the fly, although I did get to read these over this morning. So we begin. Alison, how do you maintain and grow your own faith? What does called to ministry mean, and how did you know you were called? Each of these could be a whole sermon unto itself. One thing I want to share about growing and maintaining my faith, I think it's important for a spiritual leader to have a spiritual practice. And so mine is prayer, written prayers, silent prayers, the walking prayers of the labyrinth, all different kinds of prayer. And growing my own faith, I think study and reflection is one of the important elements of how I grow my faith. And in the Christian church and in some other congregations too, they may relate specifically to the Bible or to a particular sacred text. It could be the Upanishads, it could be different texts that people are looking at. And I've always appreciated the image that we Unitarian Universalists use of creating a loose leaf Bible. And so my reflection resources indeed are some of the sacred texts of the world. One of the reasons I loved going to Harvard Divinity School was just access to so many people able to teach about the religions around the globe and all across the United States. And so looking at some of those sacred texts, poetry, stories, I think something you may have figured out about me is the humanist side too. I love the stories of human experience. You all inspire me. You teach me so much about celebration, about mourning. I carry in that loose leaf Bible the stories of people I know well, of spiritual leaders and prophets that I may not know well but feel close. Last week I spoke about Thich Nhat Hanh, the stories of his life and the difference he's made in so many lives. So that reflection on that loose leaf Bible is both what helps me prepare services and helps me to deepen and grow. And I'll name one of my favorite stories, since I alluded to that. One story that's definitely in my loose leaf Bible is the story in the rabbinical writings that's outside of the Hebrew Bible. When the Red Sea is parted, Nachshon, it is said, had to have the courage to walk out into the river. Not even the prophet, an ordinary person walked out into the river, had the courage to walk further and further until the water was all the way up to their nose practically, and they couldn't breathe. And only then the water parted. And indeed, sometimes we have to take steps out into uncertainty, don't we, to make it to the other side. So that's one of my favorite stories, but stories really call to me. I'm gonna have to be shorter. Okay, what does called to the ministry mean? Parker Palmer writes about calling, and he'll often use, he'll say, a calling is the thing you cannot not do. Or Frederick Buechner talks about calling as the place where your deep gladness meets the world's deep hunger. And so something that brings you joy and meaning, that makes a difference in the world. And for some of us, it's what we do for a living. For others, it might be something we do outside of our job, but something that we can say yes to. And the word with a full heart. And calling also has that notion of hearing a voice, right? So some people talk about that inner voice and outer voice as the voice of God. I might think of it as the still small voice within, and indeed, sometimes it's affirmed. I was headed to be a doctor when I first graduated college, but in my spare time, on top of the job I already had, studying for the MCATs, working at the church, in my volunteer time, I led a 200-member young adult group that was engaged in worship, in social justice, and in community building. And so there I was, in the time I could carve out, kind of leading a church within a church. And the minister said to me one day, I hear you talking about medicine, but I see you walking towards the ministry. And people would mistake me sometimes, like, oh, you're an assistant minister here. And when I was 23, I would be like, what am I doing wrong? Because, like, I'm not really wanting to give a minister vibe right now, because of whatever projections I had about what a minister was. But eventually, I just was like, yes, yes. I feel called to healing, and the way that I seek to heal is in community, in a multi-generational community. And we are really one of the only institutions cradle to end of life. And what a powerful mix of stories and presence we offer one another. So I say yes, still to that call of healing, to the call of life with you and through the ministry again and again. Thank you. Okay. Why did the Unitarian and Universalists merge? They merged in 1961. 3 short answers. The Universalists were so good at their message that they eventually ran out of people, and other churches started preaching it. There was, for sustainability, Universalists were looking for partners, and so were the Unitarians. The best answer is the Unitarian and Universalist youth started meeting together, first in the 1940s and 50s. Our youth led the way, the youth groups merged, and then the parents followed, or really the youth grew up to be the adults that then made the decision to merge. And theological convergence, and this gets to the next part of this question. How are they same? How are they different? What does that end up giving us as UUs? When we just say we are Unitarians and we leave out something, are we leaving out something we should be saying? See, multi-part. The Unitarians, you're on an elevator. This is, as a New Yorker, something I'm used to. You're going up to like the 5th floor. So here's what you have time to say. The Unitarians are very optimistic about human nature. They believe that we can do it, that we continually become wiser, more just, more loving throughout our lifetime. The Universalists believed that God was so loving that quote unquote, because this is the old language there, he would never send his children to be tortured for eternity for finite mistakes. An optimism about God's nature, and eventually they actually converged because we so often talk about how our understandings of God are also a reflection of our understandings of humanity, and we are the creators of how we speak about what divinity is. And so a loving God could inspire loving people, and we need both. Today, the call of universal salvation, that we're all going to the same place, would be the beloved community. The call to build a multiracial, multicultural, spiritually alive, peaceful, diverse, socioeconomically rich, and rich as in a place where everyone has adequate shelter, an opportunity for education, all these things a reality here on earth. And what we're about is learning with our partners in the world to build the beloved community in the corners that are ours to tend. And Unitarians let us know that ordinary human beings could point and move in that direction with their lives. Sometimes we talk about the head and the heart. So honestly, if we lose universalism and shorthand ourselves as Unitarians, we miss out on a lot of our calling. We need the head and the heart. We need the conscience and the courage. And Unitarian Universalism is all those things. God is good, people can be good. That would be the short version to the fifth floor. Here's an important one. Actually, they're all important, but this deals some with the questions of the current conflict. What occurred during any right relations process with the Sunday service protesters before the executives adopted a rule banning protests on the church premises, or after the ban? Is the fifth principle violated when peaceful protest is banned in the church? Good questions. So I want to remind folks of a couple of things. One is that the Sunday before, we didn't use the word ban, but that's fine. What we named was that the protests needed to be outside the church, and it is not the only place that the protesters are sending messages out to congregants. They have multiple avenues. The Sunday before, there were the protesters, and then there was a counter-protester group that got up in front, and then the protesters, some said they were really upset that people were up here expressing a different point of view, and they felt silenced. And then we heard that there were going to be counter-protest signs. And so the question really became, many of you said, what about the freedom to worship? There's the freedom of expression, but there is the freedom to worship. And this is disrupting our worship. And now even the protesters were saying they were offended by other people who were going to have a different perspective than they had. So really it had gotten to a point where our safe church policy was being violated. The Safe Church policy was written a long time ago, and it talks about disruptive and disrespectful behavior. It specifically talks about disrupting worship and being disrespectful in worship, and it specifically talks about disruptive and disrespectful behavior in communications. And so after allowing for 2 months their message to get out, which I think it was out, people were looking for the right to worship, to be able to be present. And I've said this before, we're learning. This is the first time, certainly I'm dealing with anything like this, and disinformation was being put out, falsehoods were being put out, and misinformation was being put out. And the Board of Trustees delegation had reached out to the protesters to meet with them, and they wrote back that they would not meet with the Board of Trustees until they fulfilled their demands. And when I met with a delegation of the protesters with a couple of board members, they actually said to the board members there, we're sorry if you're offended, but we're meeting with the most important people first. So we met with the UUA, and then we're meeting with Alison, and then they reached out, and then we'll get to you afterwards. Sorry if you're offended that you're at the bottom. I worry that a lot of not right relations things are happening, including what I witnessed with the board. We have power and authority located in the congregation. Our board members are entrusted with stewarding this congregation, and they received, as you have read in the FAQ, complaints. And they investigated those complaints, and they spent $114,000 to do that. And an FAQ was produced based on the truth of the findings of outside, independent, investigators. And I have so much compassion for the fact that people are grieving. Wasn't in any of the rooms when the decisions were made or discussed about how to investigate those complaints, about the receipt of the information from those investigations. The board took it upon themselves to do that really challenging work. And I know that there are people who are grieving. And I know that to be the case, but that doesn't mean that people can then turn the truth of those investigations on their head, turning the truth upside down, creating alternative facts, sharing information from, let's say, one person in a larger group or a couple of people in a larger group and saying that's the whole truth. We as leaders are trying to create an accountable process where everyone can speak. And the disruption and the disrespect has to stop. And let's talk about it. Maybe we want to look at our safe church policy and do something differently, but it felt like people were being harmed and that the church was being harmed, including by people asking people to lower their pledge. The paradox is that they were upset that we had to make cuts in the music program, and now they're asking people to lower their pledges, which will make it even harder. So this is too big of a topic to address here, but I would say that we need to call all of ourselves back to right relations, and all of us, myself included. I'm a human being. You heard me last week apologize to the choir members who were upset that we didn't explicitly say they didn't have to sing on the following Sunday after. We shouldn't have just imagined they knew it. I'm happy to apologize for the things that I've done wrong, and I don't appreciate being accused once again of doing things that have been investigated 4 times that I have not done. It is time to stop. I know I forgot some things there. You can ask me again. This is the benefit, and the benefit of this is just my immediate thoughts. Who determines the curriculum for the children's RE program? How is it developed? I heard at the UUGA that children's RE curriculum is being rewritten by something called the Mosaic Project. Will there be a congregational review of this new curriculum before it is adopted by our congregation? Our religious education director, our minister, Leah Angiri, helps decide what is the curriculum that we're going to be using based on what we inherit and what we want to create. It's often developed with curriculum teams. Yes, we use the UUA curricula from time to time, and we've been using Tapestry of Faith. My predecessor, Bill Sinkford, actually drove a huge opportunity for curriculum development at the UUA during his tenure as president, and the Mosaic Project is now a renewed effort towards that. The social justice, actually Dana and Leah have already met some about this, and we are imagining what parts of the Mosaic curriculum we might incorporate. And yes, there will be a review. Some of you may remember before the pandemic, the congregation was working on a curriculum map, and we have an opportunity to create one for adults as well, and so we'll be returning to that effort. So the religious educator partnering with the ministers, partnering with the RE volunteers and all of you is how we decide what our curriculum is. We develop some in-house, and we also use the excellent resources of the UUA and other congregations. Here's a fun one. Two questions together. Congregant A, I'm reading everything verbatim. Why so many old hymns? This church will not survive without young people. Please look at the power dynamics. Too much choir, organ, and white supremacy here for me. Question from Congregant B. May we sing some of the old familiar hymns from the blue hymnal once in a while. Sometimes singing things many of us know by heart helps us feel as though we belong to one congregation. Breathing at the same time, being able to sing with confidence. Why haven't we been using any of them? A couple of short things, and I now am looking at the time. Here's what I want to say about this. I have led worship in congregations where we had a jazz at sundown service, where we invited in local bands to sing in the music when they had songs that were lifting up our values. I have led services with the old familiar hymns. I have led services with music from everywhere from this last year to the old red hymnal, if people remember the one that preceded the gray hymnal, which preceded the teal hymnal. And now, finally, we're going to have an online hymnal. So for me, music is one of the most important parts of the service. It is the emotional tone of the service. And I think it's time, as we move towards strategic planning and imagination, and in this time of transition, to talk about what is all of the types of music that would buoy our collective spirits. And what that might look like is, yes, some more opportunities to reflect the religious diversity that we have here, the cultural diversity that we have in our city, and very contemporary examples, and celebrating some of the, we have two organs, so celebrating some of the best of the tradition that has buoyed people for centuries. And hopefully, if you like the music every single Sunday, then we're not doing it right. We need to learn how to share space and to really create a music program. And I'm not saying this isn't happening in many ways, but what are the ways that we need to change? What does it mean to be in the least religious state of the union? How does our music program bend or move because of that, both in terms of tradition and innovation? And my heart is wide open. My first volunteer job in the church was as a choir member from 3rd grade to 12th grade, and it's part of the heart of what we do. So I'm excited for the old familiar hymns and for some very different things to happen here as well. In what ways are spiritual communities like ours becoming more active and influential in the political arena during this critical time? How and why can we work to get out the vote to be a spiritual practice? Why does engaging with UU efforts in other parts of the country, like through UU the Vote, matter? I think my shortest answer to this is come to the UU the Vote session following this service to find out more about my answers to that. But I will name, Unitarian Universalists have always punched above our weight. We've been always out there on the front lines, amplifying the voices of the people that are most impacted by policies that are not grounded in love. We've been out there trying to make sure that more people have access to vote, because again, that optimistic understanding of human nature. When we prevent a part of the population from voting, as by the way happens in too many voting places around our country, then we do not elect the people who represent us. And we really, this is just precious, precious to us. So come to UU the Vote, and I promise to preach more about this in the fall. How do we choose the charities we support with our Sunday collection? May congregants suggest organizations? If so, how? If you have a suggestion, send it to Dana. We choose charities or justice organizations, service organizations that we have connections to, our church has connections to, and each year we choose an area of impact. So this year ahead is Join the Journey, and we'll be looking to make an impact around migration and supporting immigrant justice. So email our social justice director And 8. I can't believe I got there. It is usual for prayers to be said in our UU services, question mark. So it is usual for prayer. I guess, is it usual probably is what that was meant to be. By the minister or by others participating in the service, or the congregation being asked to pray. Some members do not appreciate this. When such prayers are said, who and what is being prayed to? Is it just a prayer of human hope with no recipient in mind? Or is it a prayer to a spiritual power that is presupposed as a recipient with powers of intervention in human affairs? Definitely a sermon. The short version. In a Unitarian Universalist service, when we are engaging in the act of prayer, one of the things that we are seeking to do is to reflect deeply and listen to that small voice and to go forth more equipped to be just and loving and grounded and creative and courageous. So it's really about a change within, and we are addressing to whom it may concern. What that looks like, though, is that some people are addressing God, whether a transcendent or an immanent concept or both. That's to whom it may concern. That's why up here, writ large, to whom it may concern. But for some, that's God by many names, by many understandings. For others, it's the highest in the human conscience. To others, it's a sense of love that beckons any one of us beyond our own lives to the power of, let's say, the beloved community. So to whom it may concern is part of that answer. And for those that really, really hate prayer, remember what I said about music? That's when you practice, oh, this doesn't work for me, but let me open my eyes and look around the room. Wow, it seems like it's working for others. I'm so glad there's this moment for them. And then you can meditate with your heart's content. And the same thing, I want to change it up sometimes. I want to remove the pulpit. If we're talking about Buddhism, we can remove the pulpit, I can put my sitting cushion down, and we can engage in a meditation together. That is a deep part of the practice, a loving kindness meditation that I engage in. So let's be multicultural in how we pray. I named some things. The labyrinth is another one. Not everyone likes to pray while being still. Movement prayer is a thing. So prayer is many things. I want to thank you for setting the questions. I'm so excited to continue the conversation. I'm so excited to look at the others, and it is going to enrich future sermons and future columns because you have shared things that you'd like to hear more about. So I end with thank you for your questions.
We'll be doing this as a round. So group 1, group 2, group 3, and group 4. Good luck.
That is the most Unitarian Universalist song ever. The first time I heard it sung at General Assembly with well over 4,000 people, I just thought, oh my goodness, we are singing We Love the Questions. And it reminded me that when I was running a campus ministry in college, we sometimes had this thing that would say, we have a question for the other table's every answer. So if that sounds interesting, come and join us. Plus, we serve pizza. And now, in our going, may that light of love nourish us and keep us and shine down upon us and radiate out from within us and be gracious unto us. And may it make of each one of us people ready to say, yes, I see the beloved community on the horizon. Do you see how to get there? How will we get there? And yes, I see right here with ordinary people who make mistakes all the time, the capacity to keep on moving forward towards that vision together. And when we say yes to that, we say yes to our collective call this day. For this is the day that you and I are given. So let us rejoice in it and be glad. Go in peace. Practice love. Amen.